The sun was relentless in the sky above Lusanka, a vibrant African city where golden dust settled on everything, from the rusted rooftops of vendors to the shiny SUVs that rolled by with tinted windows and muffled music. The streets were alive with the sounds of vendors calling out engines, grumbling, and children chasing makeshift balls between traffic. Among the roadside stalls on Mavinga Street stood a woman with patient eyes and hands that moved like poetry. Her name was Zina Moyo. Once the pride of her high school class, now she tended a modest corn stall, the sweet scent of roasted maize curling into the air and attracting loyal passers-by. Her tiny grill, made from old iron sheets and supported by bricks, hissed with fire as she carefully turned each cob, ensuring even charring wrapping, each in brown paper with leaves to retain flavor. She didn't talk much. She didn't need to. Her hands did all the talking, and those who stopped to buy once almost always came back. Zina had learned to be invisible. She'd mastered the art of occupying space without asking too much from it. Never raising her voice, never complaining. But today, something would change. A sleek black Mercedes with polished chrome rims pulled up across the street. Zina barely glanced at it, just another car among many. But then the door opened, and from it stepped a woman in scarlet heels that clicked with authority. She wore a crisp white suit, a bag that screamed luxury, and a walk that demanded attention. Zina looked up and froze. The woman paused, squinted at her, then gasped dramatically. "Zina, Zina Moyo," the woman exclaimed, a wide grin spreading across her glossed lips. "Is that really you?" Zina's hands stopped moving. Her eyes searched the woman's face and recognition settled slowly. Tari Chisala, her old schoolmate, the debate team champion, the class fashionista, the girl everyone either wanted to be or to befriend. Zina gave a hesitant smile. "Tari, it's been years." Tari stepped forward, arms wide. But Zina didn't move. And just as quickly as the smile appeared, it vanished. Tari's expression shifted to something colder, calculating. She pulled out her phone, angled it slyly, and started recording. "Well, well, well," she said with a smirk, turning the camera on herself. "Guess who I just found? Our very own class president, Miss Perfection herself, now selling corn by the roadside. Life's got jokes, huh?" Zina's smile crumbled. Her arms dropped. Her voice caught in her throat. Tari kept going. "Please, let's not pretend we were ever close. I mean, come on. We're from different worlds now. I roll with a very different class these days." She laughed a high, hollow sound, then reached into her purse and pulled out a 50 kwacha note. "Here," she said, tossing it at Zina's feet like it was a bone for a street dog. "Buy yourself something. Or feed your dreams." She turned on her heels, clicking louder, now climbed back into her car and drove off. The laughter still echoed even after the car had disappeared. Zina stood still. The corn on the grill was burning, but she didn't notice. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. She bent down, picked up the note without a word, and slipped it under the table. What neither of them noticed was the man sitting in the SUV parked just 2 cars down. His window was down slightly, his dark sunglasses reflecting the entire scene. He had been about to step out and cross the road for a quick snack before his next meeting, but he remained frozen in place, watching, observing. His name was Mr. Sekou Adeyemi, CEO of Adeyemi Foods Group, a Pan-African agro-processing conglomerate. And he had just witnessed something that stirred something deep inside him. Later that afternoon, in the towering glass building of Adeyemi Holdings, Tari strutted into the executive lobby with confidence radiating from her like perfume. Her heels clicked on marble, her shoulders were straight, her outfit impeccable. This meeting, she believed, would change the course of her business. Her media company had been climbing steadily, and this partnership could elevate her brand into a household name. She was ushered into a waiting lounge with minimalist DCOR and calming music. She rehearsed her pitch one more time, adjusted her blazer, and reapplied lipstick with practiced precision. When the receptionist smiled and said, "Mr. Adeyemi will see you now," she stood poised and powerful. Inside the sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows, Mr. Adeyemi looked up from a folder and extended a hand. "Miss Chisala, thank you for coming." "Thank you for having me, sir," she said, sitting down gracefully and sliding her proposal across the desk. "Everything you need is in there. My company is ready to take this collaboration to new heights." He nodded, flipping through her portfolio. "You've built an impressive operation, strong numbers, great media presence." "I believe in excellence," she replied, flashing her brightest smile. "My team delivers results. Every partnership we've had ended with success. That's our promise." There was a pause. Mr. Adeyemi looked up. "Earlier today," he said slowly, "did something happen between you and a street vendor? A woman selling corn?" Tari blinked. Her polished expression faltered for a second before she scoffed. "Oh, that woman. Yes, Zena. We used to be classmates back in the day. Imagine my shock." He said nothing, waiting. "She was always the teacher's favorite," Tari continued. "Top scores, perfect speeches, and now out there selling maize on the street. It's just tragic." Mr. Adeyemi's face remained unreadable. "I barely recognized her," she added with a forced chuckle. "But I kept it classy. You know how it is. Some people just don't make it." "Did you ask her what happened?" he asked. "Sir, with all due respect," Tari said, adjusting her posture, "some people don't need explanations. Life sorts us where we belong." Another pause. Mr. Adeyemi leaned back in his chair, folded his hands together. "And you're sure she had nothing of value to offer?" Tari's lips parted. "Well, she sells corn, sir." He nodded slowly. "Thank you, Miss Chisala. I appreciate your time. We'll be in touch." Tari's brow furrowed slightly. "Of course. I look forward to it." As she stood, Mr. Adeyemi stood with her but didn't offer a handshake. He simply watched her leave with polite detachment. She didn't notice the shift, only that his smile never reached his eyes. Back at Mavinga Street, the sun was dipping lower now, casting everything in gold. Zena was still at her grill, the scent of roasting corn blending with evening breeze. She had resumed her calm, silent rhythm, unaware that her life had just shifted forever. A black SUV pulled up again. The window rolled down. "Good evening," came the deep, warm voice. She looked up. "Good evening, sir." "3, please," he said, nodding to the freshest cobs. She wrapped them neatly, her hands steady. "That'll be 90 kwacha." He handed her a crisp 100. "Keep the change." "Thank you, sir," she said, bowing slightly. A pause. "Would you mind if I sat and spoke with you for a bit?" She blinked. "Sit with me." "If that's all right," he said kindly. She hesitated, then nodded. "Please." He stepped out and sat beside her on the wooden bench, his tailored trousers barely wrinkled. His watch shimmered under the firelight. "You run this stall alone?" "Yes, sir." "You're very meticulous," he noted, watching her flip the corn expertly. "I try," she replied softly. "You seem principled. That's rare." She didn't respond. Instead, she offered him one cob freshly turned. He bit into it, then smiled. "Delicious. You're talented." "Thank you." He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Would you be open to a business opportunity?" Her head snapped up. "Pardon," he smiled. "I own a company that works with corn-based products. We're looking to partner with grassroots vendors who value quality. I noticed your stall today, not just the food, but your work ethic." She stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or cry. I went to university, sir," she whispered, not sure why she added that. "Graduated top of my class in food science, but jobs were scarce. No connections. I tried for a year. Then I started this." Mr. Adeyemi nodded. "Then let's not waste your talent." He stood. "Come to our headquarters tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring samples. Let's see how we can work together." She stood too unsure how her legs were holding her. I will. Thank you, sir." "One more thing," he added before climbing into the SUV. "Don't let anyone shame you for where you are. You never know who's watching." Then he was gone. Zina sat slowly. The corn sizzled beside her, but her mind was already racing ahead. Her heart thudded with a new rhythm, a rhythm of possibility. That night, she didn't sleep. Zina didn't sleep that night. She sat at her small wooden table in the corner of the one-room apartment she rented above a carpenter's workshop. The walls were thin, and the rhythmic thumping of hammer against nail below served as a strange metronome to her thoughts. Her eyes scanned the meager supplies. She had corn cobs she'd saved from the freshest batch, woven wrappers, leaves, bits of string, and her heart pounded with both fear and hope. She washed each cob gently, removing stray silk and dirt, then dried them on clean fabric. Some she roasted over her tiny gas stove, others she boiled, letting the sweet scent fill the room. She wrapped each one with care, tying them like miniature gifts. When she finished, she stepped back and stared at the basket. It looked proud, as if her story sat inside it. By the time the first rooster crowed outside and the calls to morning prayer drifted in through the window, Zina had changed into her cleanest gown, a soft yellow cotton dress with pressed seams. She tied her hair back in a neat bun, wiped her worn sandals, and wrapped the basket carefully in cloth. She was tired, but more awake than ever. As she stepped out of the building, her neighbor, old Mama Ruth, called from her stoop. "You dey go early today, Zina." Zina turned and smiled, the basket balanced on her hip. "Yes, Mama. I'm going to change my life." The walk to the bus station felt like a march to destiny. She clutched her basket tighter every time a bump threatened its balance. Inside the bus, she sat near the window, her thoughts swirling. Would they laugh at her? Would they say she was only good at grilling, not growing? But Mr. Adeyemi's words echoed in her head. "You have something many people don't, genuine work ethic." At exactly 9:45 a.m., Zina arrived at the glass tower labeled Adeyemi Holdings. The building loomed over her, all chrome and confidence. She looked up, breathed deep, and walked in. The receptionist blinked at her in surprise, clearly not used to seeing visitors in hand-sewn dresses carrying baskets. But when Zina softly said, "I'm here to meet Mr. Seiko Adeyemi," the woman's eyes widened slightly. "One moment," she said, picking up the phone. Within minutes, a man in a tailored navy blue suit came to greet her. "Miss Moyo, please come with me. Mr. Adeyemi is expecting you." Zina followed silently, holding her basket, as if it were a crown. They passed glass offices filled with staff in suits typing, talking, walking quickly. Heads turned. Whispers started. But Zina kept her gaze ahead, steady. In the top-floor boardroom, Mr. Adeyemi stood waiting, his warm eyes crinkling slightly when he saw her. "Zina," he said, shaking her hand. "Right on time." "Thank you for seeing me, sir," she replied. "Let's see what you've brought." She laid out her corn like a jeweler displaying gold. Roasted pieces, boiled ones wrapped with care, some brushed with spices, others left plain. Mr. Adeyemi sampled one and closed his eyes briefly. This is incredible. The texture, the seasoning, even the presentation. Zina stood quietly, hands folded, her heart fluttering. You said you studied food science. Yes, sir. First-class honors from Nkatha University. He leaned back in his chair. Zina, what I saw yesterday wasn't just your work. I saw your integrity, your restraint, the way you handled humiliation with grace. That's the kind of person I want in my business. Her throat tightened. We're launching a new division focused on grassroots agricultural partnerships, local sourcing, clean processing, and community empowerment. I want you to head our pilot project. Zina blinked. Head it? Yes, he said, smiling. With support, of course. You'll help design the model test recipes, train small vendors, and eventually lead your own product line. She sat down slowly. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be here tomorrow. We'll draft your contract and begin orientation. Her lips trembled. I'll be here. Good, he said. And one more thing, have you ever thought of branding your corn? Zina looked at the basket. I used to call it Mama Z's Golden Grills when I imagined having a kiosk. Mr. Adeyemi grinned. Perfect. Let's make that name mean something. They shook hands again. The deal was done. By the time Zina stepped out of the building, the sky had shifted from gray to blazing blue. The world seemed to hum louder colors, richer. People passed her unaware that the woman in the yellow dress had just rewritten her future. Elsewhere in the city, in a spacious apartment, decorated in whites and silvers, Tari Chisala sipped her third mimosa and refreshed her phone again. Nothing. No big deal, she muttered, twirling a strand of hair. Men like Mr. Adeyemi are busy. She opened Instagram and scrolled to her profile, admiring the video from the day before. The one where she'd mocked Zina. Guess who I found? Our former class president turned corn hawker, she repeated aloud, chuckling to herself. The comment section had grown. Some laughed with her. Others criticized her. Jealous people, she muttered, sipping again. But as the hours passed and no call came, no email arrived, her fingers began to twitch. By 2 p.m., she was pacing. She pulled out her phone and called the office. Mr. Adeyemi is unavailable, the receptionist said politely. Tari sent a follow-up email, then a second. No reply. By evening, the glow of the morning had turned to sweat and unease. Just before midnight, she clicked on Adeyemi Foods' official page. Her mouth fell open. Excited to welcome a new partner for our corn supply chain. We believe in talent, not titles. True success wears humility. Beneath the caption was a photo Zina Moyo in a fitted suit smiling shyly beside Mr. Adeyemi, holding her basket of corn like a queen holds her scepter. No, Tari whispered. No, this is a joke. She clicked the image, zoomed in. It was her. She looked nothing like the dusty vendor from yesterday. She looked dignified, elegant. Just then her phone rang. She grabbed it. But it wasn't Adeyemi Holdings. It was the Professional Media Licensing Board. Miss Chisala, said a flat voice. We regret to inform you that due to a formal complaint regarding unprofessional conduct and public defamation, your business license has been suspended pending further review. What? She screeched. Who complained? This is a mistake. We advise you to review your recent online conduct. This is a serious matter. Good evening. Click. The line went dead. Tari stood still, the room spinning. She dropped her phone and sank to the marble floor, hands over her face. The girl she tried to humiliate had become her downfall. Back in her modest apartment, Zina stood before the mirror. She was still in her yellow dress. Her fingers touched her hair lightly. Then she smiled softly privately. Tomorrow she would begin again, and the world would know her name. The training room at Adeyemi Holdings buzzed with anticipation. Staff members, interns, department heads, and even top executives had gathered, some seated, some lingering near the coffee machine, curious to meet the woman behind the company's latest announcement. The email had landed in their inboxes that morning. Team, please welcome Miss Zina Moyo, our new grassroots supply chain partner and the face of our sustainable corn initiative. The name didn't ring a bell for most of them, but social media did the rest. The photo on the company's official page had gone viral overnight. Zina, in her mustard yellow suit, her braids pulled back into a bun, standing beside Mr. Adeyemi, with a basket in hand and a hopeful smile that melted even the coldest hearts. The caption below her image struck a chord, from street vendor to strategic partner. Zina Moyo reminds us that humility, grit, and integrity will always outshine pride. Now the people wanted to meet her, not just because of the position she held, but because of the story that came with her. And then the doors opened. Zina stepped into the room beside Mr. Adeyemi. The murmurs stopped. Whispers melted into silence. She wasn't loud. She didn't stride with the practiced swagger of someone used to the spotlight. But she walked tall, confident, calm, certain. She wore a soft green dress that hugged her, gently matched with low-heeled shoes, and carried a plain brown folder. Her gaze was steady, her presence serene. "This is her," someone whispered. "She's the corn lady," another said under their breath. "She looks amazing." Mr. Adeyemi stepped forward, voice commanding but warm. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Miss Zina Moyo. She's not just our newest partner. She's the embodiment of what we believe in: authenticity, perseverance, and purpose." A small, respectful round of applause rippled through the room. Zina stepped up to the podium. She looked out at these unfamiliar faces and took a breath. Her hands didn't tremble. "Thank you." She began, her voice soft but clear. "A few weeks ago, I was selling roasted corn by the roadside. Not because I lacked ambition, but because despite my qualifications, I couldn't find a place that believed in me. So I made my own place. I roasted corn because it was honest work. I did it with pride." A hush fell over the room. "I didn't wait for someone to open a door. I built a table on a sidewalk. And now, by some divine alignment, I stand here because someone saw me. Not for what I wore or who I knew, but for how I worked." Eyes blinked rapidly. A few heads nodded slowly. "I know what it's like to be laughed at, filmed without consent, dismissed. But I also know what it means to be given a chance. So here's what I want to say. Don't look down on people who are building with what they have. You don't know what's growing inside their silence." By the time she stepped away from the podium, the entire room was on its feet. Not a loud cheer, but a long, meaningful applause that lingered like a heartbeat. Mr. Adeyemi smiled. "Welcome to the team, Zina." Across town, Tari Chisala sat cross-legged on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by unopened letters and half-drunk glasses of wine. Her inbox was still empty. Her client group chats had gone silent. The only thing that kept pinging was a wave of notifications from people sharing Zina's story. She scrolled past the headlines: "Humble hero from street vendor to CEO partner. Zina Moyo wins the nation's heart and the market." This woman's story just silenced every elitist doubter. One particular post stung. "Remember the video of the woman mocking a corn vendor? Turns out that vendor just became a corporate partner. Life comes at you fast." Tari threw her phone across the room. It hit the couch and bounced off harmlessly. Her hands ran through her hair. Mascara smudged under her eyes. Her once glamorous world had shrunk to the size of a cracked phone screen, and everything inside that screen reminded her of what she had lost. The PR crisis was beyond repair. Her sponsors had pulled out. Her business license still suspended. No one wanted to be associated with her anymore. Not even her former assistant, who now worked with a rival firm. She buried her face in her hands and screamed into the quiet. Back at Adeyemi Holdings, Zina sat in a meeting room with the marketing and production teams. "We want to brand your product line under your name," said Adama, the head of strategy. "What do you want to call it officially?" Zina blinked. "I used to dream of having a kiosk. I named it Mama Z's Golden Grills in my notebook. It sounded silly then. It sounds perfect now." Adama smiled. "We'll build the logo, packaging, local campaigns. Maybe even expand to other regions if sales go well." Zina nodded, still trying to take it all in. "Can I keep it affordable? I want street vendors like me to stock it too." Mr. Adeyemi, seated at the end of the table, tapped his pen thoughtfully. "We'll design a dual model, premium packaging for supermarkets and hotels, and a vendor empowerment pack for roadside stalls. You'll lead both." Zina's chest swelled, not with pride, but with gratitude. The next few days moved like a dream. She attended workshops, visited the factory site, tasted trial batches, and signed official documents that stamped her name across something tangible. She met other vendors, women who looked at her with a strange mix of awe and curiosity. She always smiled and said, "I'm just like you, just starting from a different place now." The following week, Mr. Adeyemi invited her to meet the board. "You'll be presenting your vision," he told her as they rode the elevator. "Keep it simple. Speak from your truth." "I always do," Zina said quietly. The boardroom was filled with polished shoes, gray suits, jeweled watches, and cautious eyes. As Zina stood at the front holding a folder and wearing a soft blue suit, she began to speak, not with charts or jargon, but with her story. "I'm not here to impress you with numbers. I'm here to show you what happens when you invest in people." She told them about her education, her job hunt, her decision to start grilling corn. She told them about how society labeled her as a failure, when in truth she was surviving with integrity. And then she shared her vision. A line of corn products made locally, processed ethically, and distributed with dignity, from the roadside to the boardroom. The board listened in silence. When she finished, one of the older members said, "Miss Moyo, what you've built on the street, and now here is what most of us forget. Business is not about image, it's about impact." They approved her proposal unanimously. Later that evening, as Zina left the building, a small girl with a tray approached her in the parking lot. The girl's apron was smudged with oil, her braids loose, her feet bare. "Miss Zina," the girl said breathlessly. I just wanted to say thank you." Zina turned. "For what?" "I saw your video. I started selling corn too. Maybe one day I'll grow like you." Zina smiled, reached into her bag, and bought 2 pieces from the girl. One she handed to Mr. Adeyemi, who stood beside her smiling. "Still the best taste in the world," he said, biting into it. "You've got the heart to match it," Zina replied. They drove off into the evening traffic, the city lights flickering against the windshield. Ahead, a new billboard towered above the road. It read, "Mama Z's Golden Grills, from the roadside to the boardroom. A taste of resilience." Zina looked at the glowing sign and closed her eyes. Not to rest, but to remember. Remember the dust, the fire, the tears, and the quiet prayer whispered over a small corn stand. "Let someone see me." Someone did. And now the world would never forget her name. Zina Moyo walked through the entrance of a busy supermarket in Lusanka on a quiet Saturday afternoon. The automatic doors slid open with a familiar hush, and she stepped inside wearing a simple floral dress and flat shoes. Her braids were tied in a bun. No makeup, no perfume, only the faint scent of roasted corn lingering from the small snack she had bought earlier. This was how she liked to go out when she wasn't attending meetings or giving talks, just herself, stripped of the title, the brand, the expectations. Today she only needed a few things, ginger sugar, and a new set of labels for a sample project. She reached for a trolley and began moving down the aisle. The supermarket was bustling, filled with weekend shoppers navigating their way between displays and promo signs. Zina moved with quiet confidence, unnoticed at first, just another face in the crowd. But as she turned into the promotional aisle near the dry goods section, her steps slowed. Her eyes landed on a woman standing by a branded display table wearing a faded uniform shirt and an apron that was frayed at the edges. Her makeup was melting under the heat of the store lights, and her once polished nails were chipped. She held a tray of food samples, her voice hoarse as she called out to customers. "Buy one, get one free. Please help me meet my target." Zina froze. The voice was unmistakable. The stance, the way her eyes darted nervously around the crowd as if avoiding recognition. It was Tari Chisala. Tari looked up and her entire body stiffened. She stood motionless for a second, as if her heart had slammed the brakes on her breath. Her lips parted slightly. "Zina," she whispered, voice shaking. You're here." Zina nodded gently, her face unreadable. "Yes, I'm here." There was a pause thick with history. Tari's eyes welled up and she looked away quickly, ashamed. Her hands trembled as she tried to rearrange the tray in front of her. "I didn't know. I didn't expect." Zina remained still. Tari swallowed. "I lost everything. My business, my license, even my apartment. I've been trying to survive. I didn't come here to beg. I swear, I just needed to say something." Shoppers continued walking past, uninterested in the moment unfolding between two former classmates. "I was wrong," Tari said, her voice breaking. "So wrong. About you. About everything. I mocked you. And then the world mocked me." Zina looked at her silently. Then she stepped closer and said softly, "I forgave you a long time ago." Tari's knees nearly buckled. She blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. "What? I carried that pain for a while," Zina continued. "But not for long. I had more important things to build, and holding on to bitterness doesn't make bricks." Tari laughed through her tears, a broken sound. "You have every right to hate me." "I don't," Zina replied. "You gave me something that day." Tari furrowed her brows. "What could I possibly have given you?" "A turning point," Zina said simply. "A push." Silence stretched between them like a bridge, and then Zina reached into her handbag and pulled out a card. She handed it to Tari. Tari looked down. It read, "Mama's Golden Grill's Regional Office. Expansion Division, Zina Moyo, founder and CEO." Tari's eyes widened. Her breath caught. You'd offer me a job?" Zina gave a slow nod. "People change, and sometimes the ones who hurt us teach us the most. I'm expanding again, new branches, new teams. I need people who understand both failure and pride. Would you be interested?" Tari clutched the card like a lifeline. Yes, please. I'd be honored." Zina reached for a packet of labels from the shelf and turned to leave. "Be at the office Monday morning. Ask for Emeka. He'll guide you." Tari stood frozen, the card pressed to her chest, as if afraid the moment would disappear. Outside, the air was cooler. Zina stepped into her car. Her driver opened the door, nodding respectfully. As they pulled away from the curb, she looked out the window and watched people carry groceries. Children run after parents, vendors push carts through the parking lot. Her mind drifted back to those dusty days, bending over a hot grill, counting every coin, rehearsing interviews she never got. She remembered the loneliness, the questioning, the prayers whispered into the smoke. And now she was helping build something that didn't just serve corn, but served dignity. The next billboard they passed flashed her new campaign, Mama's Golden Grills. A taste of resilience now stocked nationwide in supermarkets, hotels, and street stalls. Zina smiled faintly. She wasn't chasing glory. She was building legacy. Monday morning came, and at the corporate office, Tari walked in through the glass doors, wearing a borrowed blouse and freshly ironed slacks. She clutched the card tightly. Her nerves were visible, but her face was determined. The receptionist greeted her warmly. "Miss Chisala, you're expected. Please wait, Emeka will be right with you." Minutes later, a young man appeared, clipboard in hand. "Welcome to Mama Z's. We'll start orientation shortly." Tari blinked. "So, this is real," Emeka smiled. "It's very real. Miss Moyo believes in second chances." In the training hall, as new hires gathered, Zina stood at the front, clipboard in hand. "Some of you came from shops, some from streets, some from failures," she said. "But here, none of that matters more than what you build today. If you're ready to learn, to grow, and to serve with integrity, welcome. We're not just selling corn, we're changing lives." She caught sight of Tari at the back, standing quietly, taking notes. And for the first time, Zina realized something. Forgiveness was not about forgetting the past. It was about choosing who you want to be next. The boardroom of Mama Z's Golden Grills was brighter than usual, not because of the sunlight pouring through the tall windows, but because of the energy that filled the room. Staff from every department, logistics, branding, distribution, training, sat in rows as Zina stood at the front, beside a large display screen. Behind her, a slide flickered onto the screen. 5-year expansion strategy, local roots, national reach. She cleared her throat, gently adjusting her blazer. The golden lapel pin. A small grilled corn symbol glinted softly under the light. "We began as a roadside dream," she said. "But dreams are never meant to stay small. Today we present the blueprint for turning our vendor-powered network into a continental supply chain." Her team watched with admiration, many of them knowing her story by heart. But to hear it from her lips each time felt like hearing a song that still hit home. "We will begin by opening regional packaging centers." Zina continued, clicking to the next slide, "where vendors, especially women, can bring in their corn and receive fair payment, branding support, and distribution assistance." At the far end of the table, Mr. Adeyemi nodded slowly, pride softening the corners of his face. Zina paused. "We are not here just to make profit. We are here to remind the world that what is grown in dignity tastes better than anything packaged in arrogance." A ripple of quiet applause spread across the room. She stepped down, her presentation complete. She wasn't just a speaker now, she was a symbol. Outside the boardroom, life at the Lusanka headquarters moved quickly. Trucks arriving with deliveries, sales teams reviewing data, and new interns being led through orientation. Among them was Tari Chisala, now weeks into her role as vendor training coordinator. She no longer wore designer suits or heavy makeup. Instead, she wore the soft green polo shirt of the staff uniform, her hair tied back, clipboard in hand, explaining onboarding procedures to new recruits. She had changed, not out of desperation, but because change was the only true path to growth. She often caught glances from employees who recognized her, not as the glamorous entrepreneur she once tried to be, but as the woman who had fallen and chosen to stand back up, this time with grace. One afternoon, Zina found her in the storage room arranging supply kits. "You've adjusted quickly," Zina said softly. Tari turned a light sheen of sweat on her forehead. "Still learning, but I've stopped hiding from it." Zina leaned against the doorframe. "You're doing good work." Tari swallowed. "I still don't know why you gave me a second chance." Zina tilted her head. "Because I wanted someone to give me one once. And sometimes, the people who've made the biggest mistakes are the ones who understand redemption the best." Tari looked down, blinking fast. "Thank you," she whispered. Zina stepped forward and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Let's keep building." In the months that followed, Mama Z's Golden Grills expanded into 4 more provinces. Their yellow and brown packaging became instantly recognizable on supermarket shelves. Their roadside vendor partners tripled, and farmers in rural communities began to switch from mass sellers to official suppliers thanks to fair pricing and training workshops. Zina toured villages and held town hall meetings. She shook hands with women who once couldn't afford to send their daughters to school. She listened to men who'd nearly given up farming and now saw a future. She spoke at universities, telling graduates that prestige was no substitute for purpose. Media outlets began to pick up her story once again. Corn Queen of Africa, from vendor to visionary. Zina Moyo, the woman who fed her country with integrity. She was invited to international panels on food security, praised for her grassroots model that prioritized local economies without exploiting them. A woman from a dusty roadside grill now stood beside presidents and CEOs. Her voice calm, her message consistent. But she never forgot where she came from. Every month, she personally visited one of her old vendor locations. She'd sit on a low stool, roast corn quietly beside current vendors, ask them about their children, their sales, their dreams. She never arrived with cameras or PR teams, only with listening ears and warm hands. One evening, Zina walked into her old neighborhood, a place she hadn't returned to in months. The sun was dipping and children played near the gutter with sticks and tires. The smell of grilled corn still clung to the air. The stall where it all began was now painted and polished, run by a young woman who had inherited it under Mama Z's empowerment program. "Miss Zina," the girl gasped as she saw her approach. Zina smiled. "Just Zina is fine." When the girl quickly offered her the freshest cob hands, trembling with excitement. Zina took a bite and closed her eyes. "Perfect." They sat together for a few minutes, watching the world go by. "Do you ever miss it?" the girl asked. "This quiet?" Zina looked at the fire. "Not miss. Remember, this was where my foundation was laid. Everything I am started here." As she stood to leave, a small boy ran up to her. He held a wrinkled notebook and a pencil. "Are you Mama Z?" he asked shyly. Zina knelt. "Yes, sweetie." "What's your name?" "Bio. I want to start my own corn stand when I grow up. Can I be like you?" Zina's heart swelled. She took the notebook from him and scribbled a note inside. "Dear Bayo, keep working, keep dreaming. Humility will always grow the sweetest fruit. Mama Z." She handed it back. "Now you have a signed business plan." The boy beamed and Zina walked away, her soul a little fuller. That night, she sat on the balcony of her new home, larger, quieter, filled with books and fresh plants. She sipped tea as the wind rustled the curtains, and the city lights shimmered in the distance. Mr. Adeyemi had retired recently, leaving the company's expansion division under her leadership. He called her once a week, now usually just to say, "Still proud of you, Zina." She looked at her phone. No messages, no urgent emails, just peace. She scrolled to a saved photo in her gallery, her original corn stall with its rusted grill and crooked bench. Then to the newest one, a vendor kiosk painted yellow, with Mama Z's golden grills in bold letters and children lining up beside it. Full circle. And then her phone buzzed. A new comment on the company's page. I used to laugh at vendors. Now I buy from them proudly. Because Mama Z taught me that success is built from fire, sweat, and kindness. She smiled. She had not just built a company. She had built belief. 2 years later, Zina sat on a panel in Nairobi beside global leaders in food innovation. When asked how she built an empire from corn, she replied, I didn't start with capital. I started with character. I didn't have endorsements. I had endurance. I didn't chase status. I chose service. And when they asked what kept her going, she said simply, a stranger once told me, you never know who's watching. Turns out, it was the world.